Welcome everyone to our first meeting of the new year of 2022. It's been, as Beta was just saying, it's been a few months since we got together and presented the latest information that we have and heard from you, homeowners, on how the current season is going. Can't believe it's February. Hopefully everybody's cleaning out from last week's blizzard. Maybe some of you even had guests that you had to deal with, which obviously presents another challenge with weather related events. So let's get started for today. What we have is a similar format to what we've done before. We are going to present. Joan Talmadge, Elizabeth Whedon, and myself, Jim Reese, will present today. We have a couple sections that we'll present some information on, going through just a look at the current state of the state, look at some specific numbers that I'll present, and then I'll hand it over to Joan to address some of the questions that the registrations had. A number of you had submitted topics that you wanted to hear about, so we'll present a couple of those or address a couple of those. And then at the end, we'll open it up for general Q&A. So any other lingering questions that you might have or questions on the session itself, you'll be free to ask away. We also have Carrie that's going to be monitoring the chat room. So if you have questions during this initial presentation, feel free to enter them into the chat room. She'll do her best to answer those or tee them up for discussion when we get a break. So first things first, let's take a look at how things are going. And this is probably not going to be much of a surprise for many of you, is the overall booking numbers. We're always looking at these booking numbers, and things have been strong over the last couple of years. That's all the same starting off into 2022 and for the next season. What we're seeing here is numbers across the board again, and this is a comparison to last year. So knowing how strong the last couple of years have been during this pandemic, to see that these numbers are still going up by double digits is quite something, in my opinion. We're seeing numbers up on all areas, Cape, Vineyard, Nantucket. We're also seeing not just the summer season, we're seeing even higher upticks, especially on Nantucket here, but even the pre-summer, so what we call the shoulder season. And so, of course, we know we've gone through a number of the reasons why we see these upticks, both summer and off-season. There's a higher demand for multi-week stays, long-term stays. People have the ability to work remotely. All those factors still exist. There's many vacationers who have been anxious to book a home. Maybe they missed out. There was limited availability last minute last summer, so they realized they need to book early. So we've seen a big increase early on. And then also just the overall confidence factor of booking a vacation. Last year, we put ourselves in this position last year. We were dealing with a situation where vaccines hadn't rolled out yet. People are nervous about the situation of what the summer would look like. And I think that's completely turned around now. People are confident in being able to book their homes in advance, and it's certainly showing. Specifically, once we look at some of these numbers, what I've looked at was first back in the fall. So once we got through August, September, looking at these numbers starting in October, so the last 3 months of the year, we saw, again, quite an uptick. And that's what I was talking about people feeling more confident in booking early or wanting to get a head start. And so for those of you that have prepared your listings in advance and you have a strategy for how to deal with your past guests, you're able to take advantage of that higher demand in the fall during these initial months or at the close of the year to address, either get those repeat guests to commit early or take advantage of the increased demand and books some even before the start of the new year. If you took advantage of that, you're probably in great shape coming into 2022. On top of that, we always look at the initial month or really right after Christmas season. We saw, again, knowing that 2021 saw record numbers in January, it's again quite impressive to see that we're still seeing increases in these numbers. These are numbers since December 26th, and we're still seeing close to a 10% increase in the number of inquiring vacationers on our site. So this is on the heels of 2021, which was nearly 2 times previous years. So, and again, I might sound like a broken record because I've reported these numbers several times, but I think just the demand, I'll talk about a couple other areas where just the interest in vacation rentals, the awareness of vacation rentals is increasing, and it's really not going to come down to pre-pandemic levels, in my opinion. We're going to see this increased demand that has come about during the pandemic stick around and help you book your homes. A couple more graphs to show on the overall vacation demand as we start to look at what will the demand look like in 2022. Here we are a month into 2022. Many of you have a lot, if not all. Brian and Caroline, you just said you booked your last week. Many people are in great shape already. What we're seeing with the demand here, showing this chart, and you'll see the lone dot entry right here for 2022, is this was our highest month. January was our highest month of our history on our site, and January always being one of the most popular months for planning vacations. So we're seeing that the last 2021, this light blue line is really setting the new trend. It follows, I was looking at this, it pretty much follows where we were a couple of years ago with this increase. And this is the increased demand that I don't think we're going to shrink back down to 2019 levels. We're not going to shrink all the way back down to that level once the pandemic is officially over. This demand will stick around. I don't anticipate that we're going to break records every month. You can see from this chart that last year in March, we actually had this spike. That was when the vaccines came out officially, or became a little more widely available, and we saw that huge uptick in March. But in general, I think what we'll see is 2022 being on par with last year. The demand's going to be there. We talked about this many times before, that because of that high demand, one takeaway is to not worry about cancellations as much. You're going to be able to rebook a cancellation if a cancellation was to occur. That might give you the flexibility to relax your cancellation policies. Sure, I think Joan will address that a little bit in one of her questions. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Looking at availability, this was a question I believe was posed in one of the registrations, is availability. What do we look like right now? Right now, again, not a surprise, but every week, the summer week only that I'm looking at here, every summer week is less than 50% available. Again, that correlates to the high booking rate, so that's not a surprise, except for the last week of August, which we know is always the hardest to book. Everything else is below 50%, closer to 30% on average here. And this certainly is not a surprise for any of us. We will, of course, be adding more and more inventory. We always do. It's pretty constant throughout the rest of the winter, spring, and even into the summer, where we'll be adding inventory. But you can expect that availability will be lower. And again, what that does is it just increases the demand, and it also increases the anxiousness of vacationers that are looking to find a home. When they find a home available, they're anxious to hear back and solidify that ASAP. So we talked about this last fall, the frictionless booking process, your response times, your communication practice with those guests. They're anxious to book. The better you communicate, the better experience it is for them to reserve your home, find your home and reserve it. So that's where we stand with availability. I'm going to now touch upon a couple other topics here that we talked about in the fall. First is our listing quality search, an update on this as we roll this out. So just as the guest experience is important for you, and you're always looking forward to providing the best guest experience for your vacationers, We Need Vacations focused on the user experience on our platform. And so that's where this listing quality has come out. We always feel that the We Need a Vacation site and this community of homeowners, it provides the best available homes for the Cape and Islands. But we want to make sure that that translates on our site, that they have a good experience on our site and they come back and return. We've always said that if they don't have a good experience on our site, if they don't like the listings, they see something that's off, inconsistent, poor quality, if they see that, the likelihood of them returning to our site is lower. So what we did here is we rolled out a new sort order called listing quality. And so many of you are familiar with your listing quality audit on your site, or the listing quality rating that's now assigned on your each property listing. And what I took a look at was the impact of that on the many searches that are being run. So when we turned this on back at right around Thanksgiving, since then, what we've seen is 82% of the searches leave the listing quality sort order as is. They're running their searches in that order. And so that's up a few percentage from before. So users, vacationers, when they're searching, are changing their sort order less with this change. They're just sticking with the listing quality. And when I dug a little bit deeper, what it showed was that when a vacationer, when they're most likely to change the sort order is when they're doing a very broad search. They're getting 150 properties back. Maybe they want to actually then sort those high to low, low to high. But when you're drilling in, this number, this 82% went up to 87% when you had only 25 listings or less on your sort order. There's less of a need, and they've drilled in. They've drilled into their specific weeks, their specific price range. They got back exactly listings that fit their criteria. They now are satisfied looking through the listing quality, or at least in that order. And so far, we've had some good results. And then the other aspect that we've been looking at to see what sort of the impact is that on the listings themselves. So the smiley face here is what, of course, you want to be striving for on your listing. And we've seen overall, measuring kind of the increase in, what we say is the quality listing, we've seen an increase towards good, excellent levels, 7% increase just in the short period of time. So certainly many of you are doing your jobs to ensure that these important measures, the things that we've been talking about, the responsiveness to each and every inquiry, the keeping your calendar up to date and accurate, those things play major factors in how your listings are presented. And so we've seen a good results there. I think, in fact, we were looking at the kind of the negative side of things, and I saw back in November, about 27% of our listings had what we would consider poor or below. So that has now dropped down to 15%. So again, good adjustments that have been made by individual homeowners here. And I think that sort of result is a win-win for all of us. Like I said, it's a better user experience for our vacationers on our site, and it represents your home that much better. The final piece here on my section is an update just on something called Booking Direct Day, or Book Direct Day. In fact, this is something, if you're following the vacation rental industry as a whole, this is something that was started by an industry expert, Amy Hanote, out of VRM Intel. She started this initiative on social platforms to educate guests, educate them about the benefits of booking direct. And that's exactly what the We Need a Vacation platform strives to do, is provide that opportunity for vacationers to book direct with you. And so, of course, there's the benefits of booking direct for lower costs, no booking fees. We say you get access to the better rentals, more rentals by using a booking direct platform. And then the most important one, in my opinion, is the better communication that booking direct provides. And so with that better communication, you get the better overall guest experience. You can set expectations, you can build a relationship. It's again, what we strive for in our community of homeowners, and try to provide. This effort here of Book Direct is to, again, tell vacationers that may not be aware. They may only be aware of those larger sites that charge those fees and control the communication. And so what you'll see, I think this announcement here is just to inform you about this. If you weren't aware, you may see some posts. We'll be posting about this tomorrow You'll see it on other sites. If you have your own social platforms for your properties, feel free to post your own book direct type message, or you find ours on our social sites and share that, or do both. Again, it's just a nice way to continue to spread the news and build awareness for platforms like this. And I think it always just comes back to a win-win opportunity for us and for you. So with that, I think, Joan, that's the last one I got on my side. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay.
To answer some questions.
Well, when you registered for this meeting, some of you mentioned a few questions that you'd like us to respond to. So we've pulled a few common questions. I'm going to answer them, but only briefly, because we want to leave plenty of time for your questions. And I can see from the chat room that they're coming in. So we will get to them. Let's start with the first one. And as always, you are interested in pricing and a look towards the future. So this question, says it all, that we have experienced a very healthy price increase in recent years. And what is the outlook for long term? While we don't have a crystal ball, as Jim said, the demand for 2022 remains very strong, and we anticipate that it will continue to after that. But in terms of pricing, we all know that the history. In 2020, when the lodging tax was passed, vacationers were suddenly faced with a 10 to nearly 15% increase in their rental cost. So owners were very reluctant to raise their prices much at all that year. Then in 2020, when COVID hit, again, homeowners hesitated to raise their prices because of the unknowns of what the rental season would be like, or even if there'd be a rental season. But then in 2021, owners did raise their prices significantly after the blowout summer that we had. And then again in 2022 for next summer. In fact, in a survey last fall of approximately 600 listers, 71% of homeowners said that they were raising their prices for 2022. But we don't expect to see homeowners continue to raise their prices significantly every year. It just won't happen. Over the past 25 years, the average annual price increase has been between 2 and 3%. And we expect that prices might once again return to that level of rate increase. So if you're currently not getting a high volume of inquiries and you have a lot of summer weeks available, you might take a look at your pricing to see if it is a little too high or maybe very high compared to your competition, because the inquiries are coming and our inventory is going down. Next slide. How might a recession affect the rental demand? Fortunately, vacation rentals are pretty much recession proof. Over the last 25 years, we've seen market downturns, but vacation rentals on the Cape and Islands have always remained high in demand. Vacationers might be more cautious about the homes they choose and how much they want to spend, but the rentals are an affordable alternative to other types of lodging, such as cruises and resorts and even hotels. Vacationers can appreciate the fact that they can go to the beach and cook their own meals and in their rental home and take advantage of free outdoor activities. And most of them can drive to the Cape and Islands. So it will always be a very affordable way to have a good time with your family without spending a ton of money. Next. If we increase our rates, how do we handle repeat renters? This is a question I get constantly. And your prices are going up. your maintenance, taxes, everything goes up. And you are within your rights to raise your prices too, but repeat renters are like gold, and we hate to lose our tried and true guests because our home is over their budget. So if you increase your rates, you can always make adjustments for your repeats. Either offer them last year's rate, or you can maybe meet in the middle between the old and the new rate. But be sure to let them know that you're making accommodations for them because they've been such excellent guests and you want them to return. Next. Another common question. Is it okay to have more people in my home than we have beds for? And the answer to this depends. If it's just a child or it's one adult, you might allow it. But just remember that the more people in your home, the more wear and tear. Think about the stress to your septic system as well. And also many towns are now requiring registration. And some even require an annual health inspection. Carrie will post the list of towns that do require, and more of them are. They might even restrict the guests to a certain number. For instance, if you have a 3-bedroom house, they may say you can only accommodate 6 people, no more. So that is becoming much more common, and some towns are becoming more strict than others about that on that point. Next. A lot of people are asking about landlines and if they could eliminate them. And it's true, all vacationers have cell phones. They all bring them with them. They won't even answer the phone, the landline, if you call it, because they assume it's not for them. So you can do that if you want, but you just have to be sure that your guests have easy access to your information in case of an emergency. Prominently post somewhere, and maybe in several places, your name, the street address of your property, the fire and police department numbers. You don't want someone calling 911 and when asked where they are, they'll just say, well, I'm in Dennis. It's a house with green shutters. You just have to be very specific and careful because nothing could be worse than having an emergency and you can't be found because they don't even know, the address of the property. Next.
Joan, plus the poor service that some people may get, or just the last storm that we just had, is a proof of if you have poor cell reception, then you certainly need an accessible way in an emergency.
True. Good point. COVID-driven advice, still applicable. Well, to a certain degree it is, but recommendations for COVID arrangements have loosened considerably now that we know how COVID is spread. But what remains is a heightened awareness on the part of vacationers regarding cleanliness. So although you and your turnover cleaners don't have to, go around disinfecting every doorknob and light switch, it's always a good idea to provide them with cleaning products so that they could use them during their stay, and your home should be thoroughly cleaned and sanitized during every turnover. Next. Many people during COVID, or I'm not sure about many, but there were more than I would have thought, decided to ask their guests to bring their own linens. And some even asked them to bring their own pillows and blankets. But for the most part, if they provided them before, they have returned to providing them again, even though it's much more burdensome and it's just easier if you have them bring their own and then take them home, and it's easier on the Cape and Islands environment as well. But interestingly, we haven't noticed a significant drop in the number of owners who provide them. I'd say consistently in the last 5 years or so, about 45% of all rentals provide linens. If you don't, just be sure that you inform your guests of that. Even though it won't say on your listing that you provide them, many people will assume you do, especially if they have rented a home before and expect to have linens there. Nothing's worse than having a family arrive at a rental home only to find out that there are no linens provided for them. And the last question is tips for screening prospective guests. There was an interesting thread recently in our vacation rental owners community Facebook page. I don't know how many of you are on that, members of that group. I think we have about 1,200 members right now, perhaps. But owners were discussing communication that they have with prospective guests and what to watch out for. I'm aware that some owners receive an inquiry and simply respond with a message like, yes, our home is available. Let me know if you have any questions or you'd like me to send a lease. While the vacationers might not have any questions and might be fine with simply requesting the rental contract, the homeowner is missing an opportunity to find out exactly who will be staying in their home and if their home is a good fit. Not only that, but a conversation either via email or preferably by phone gives you the chance to establish a personal connection and a mutual trust. Trust on your part that your guests will care for your home as if it were their own, and trust on your guest's part that your listing is an accurate representation of your property. And you don't need to grill them. Just keep the conversation light and friendly. When I get an inquiry, I always ask if they've been to our part of the Cape before. I mean, some people have never even been to the Cape or the island, so it's a first for them and they know nothing about it. I'll ask about the makeup of their party, if they have any special needs. It's amazing what you can find out in a brief conversation with a prospective renter. And above all, trust your instincts. If you have hesitations about an interested party for any reason, feel free to step away. In the blog post I wrote this week, I include some red flags that you should watch out for in communication with prospective guests. We also include a link to a blog post that we wrote about how to diplomatically say no if you feel that someone is not right for your home. And that is about it. Just one thing before, I guess I could say this later, but I think I will just say now about our next Zoom meeting in early March. Our guest speaker is going to be Maggie Downey, who's an administrator at Cape Light Compact, which is the Cape's arm of Mass Save. Massachusetts passed a very aggressive roadmap for climate change policy, a bill, last year, and a lot of funding is flowing from both the federal and state governments to homeowners, so to be used to decrease the carbon footprint on your homes. She'll explain all of this and show you ways to potentially shore up your heating system, insulation, washer, dryer, etc., and get rebates to do all of these things. We'll announce a date soon, as soon as we have it, but it'll be in early March. So let's get to some questions. Carrie?
All right, we've had a lot of questions come in. I'm going to start with Vaughn was asking about availability data by area. And Jim says that he can get us availability data by area and also by bedroom numbers, but he doesn't have it right now, but he can get that for us and send that out. And then another good question here. Scott was wondering how pricing should differ for June and September compared to July and August. Do you want to take that one, Joan?
Yeah, it depends on how badly you want to rent your home. Some people would like to rent as much as possible, and so their prices might be half of what they ask in the summer. Others, just don't feel it's worth doing, and so they'll have more aggressive pricing for the off season. But whatever you do, it's probably best to offer your home for a shorter minimum stay than a week long. Many people can't spend a whole week in the shoulder season, or they are going for a particular event or a wedding, for instance, or some kind of gathering. So they would like to rent for perhaps a 3-night weekend, and they're willing to pay more. So we have some good blog posts about tips for renting in the shoulder season. Fall has become much more popular in recent years. Spring is, as you know, the weather in the spring is a little more unpredictable. So I don't think it hasn't been as strong as the fall, which is just typically gorgeous in the shoulder season on the Cape and Islands.
I'd just like to add a couple of things. First of all, I think it really depends on a few different factors. And unfortunately, we wish there was some equation that we could come up with for you to say, yeah, if you get this in August, you should expect to get this in September. First of all, it's a sliding, there's a huge difference in popularity in each of those seasons. I mean, the shoulder seasons between, for example, the beginning of September and the end of November. So when you're talking about the shoulder season or the off season, really depends on when you're talking about. But there's so many other factors. There are a lot of homes that do better in the off season than other homes. For example, large homes don't do well because they're just normally teeming with family, with kids. So if your home has 1 or 2 bedrooms, for example, you're going to do much better. You're going to do better for shorter periods, as Joan mentioned, and you're going to get more childless or preschool age kids or childless couples. And if you're, for example, if you're near a village center, right, the focus isn't so much on taking the kids to the beach. So there's so many factors that each home is a little bit different. I think what Joan said in the beginning is the key factor, though. It's the supply is huge and the demand is so much less, but it's all about your incentives. So if you really want to fill your home, you're not going to be you shouldn't be as aggressive on the price. But I think Jim's chart of showing the relative, the inventory, how low it is you guys should look at that, because people who put in a flat rate for the summer or the shoulder season are really missing the opportunity to, you want to customize your pricing relative to the demand. So that's whether it's in the summer or the off season. Sorry to go on so long, but it's a complicated question.
Carrie?
All right, questions are coming in fast here. Okay, so some that came in earlier. So Kara had a question about a multiple homes category. Kara, are you still on the call? Are you out there somewhere? Do you want to unmute and ask? She said that I guess there are a few homes in her neighborhood Are you still out there?
She's still
I see
muted.
her. Yeah. She's
But
muted.
Carrie, I saw the question, I think just asking about, whether it's multiple, people are often looking for not necessarily a large home, but multiple homes that can be rented together. So same space, in the same location, same street, same next door neighbors, stuff like that. So it's just a question of, can we have a section on our site that could provide that? It's not we certainly, we help people. We get this question all the time. Vacationers asking for that. They're having trouble. The problem is right now, it's a challenge with such high demand. We can go and do a search and find homes, but you're going to find varying homes. They may be in the same neighborhood, and that's maybe they really want, literally next door on the same compound or something like that. So we do have a large families, reunions listing of rentals. There may be, if there's more demand for this, we certainly will put it together. So I don't, Beto, I don't know what else you're familiar with for homes that rent together. Maybe you kept something available offline.
We have in the past, yeah. I mean, as you say, it's difficult because it's just an unusual situation with the times of year and availability and so forth. But whoever asked Kara, it is definitely in demand from vacationers. It's just
I think I was on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically I live on a small street. There's 9 homes and 8 of them are rentals. So we have Del Mar is 2 of them. VRBO is a couple. One is on multiple, including We Need a Vacation. I'm on, obviously, We Need a Vacation, but I've had some conversations that I've had more requests for, we have multiple families. We want to be in the same area. We're less than a mile from Nauset Beach. So it's a really great cul-de-sac, quiet road. And my neighbors would be willing to switch to We Need a Vacation if we could do this. So I just think it's brilliant, to be perfectly honest.
Well, Jim, I thought just years ago when we added the map capability, at least you could do a search and map them and see at least which neighborhood they were in, but you can't really search by that, right, Jim? So
Yeah, that's
Especially when you have those wedding weekends and group events and stuff like that.
It's not a common request, but I can see the merit to it. Jim, should we get back to Kara?
Yeah,
Because
we'll take a look, Kara, and certainly
I don't
we'll
want
get
to
back
take
to
up
you.
the time. Okay.
Yeah.
I
thank
do
you.
definitely like the idea though.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to you.
Okay, next question. Karen was wondering if we know which types of homes are already full, like if certain types of homes fill up first. And then also, I don't know how we pose this question to the group, but just wondering who on the call has already filled their home, and maybe we could do a show of hands, or I'm not sure, but who wants to take this question? Joe?
Well, I would say that the homes that are closest to the beach are the first to book all the time, on the beach and within a half a mile, a walking distance of the beach. Those are probably the first ones to be rented. But I think with this demand that there's no such thing as, the ideal house that's going to book. I think everyone is if they have a reasonable price and they have an attractive listing, I think, they'll all rent at least their summer weeks with such a high demand. Don't you agree, Jim?
Yeah, no, we saw last year, and the chart that I showed earlier about the percentage of weeks available by summer week, we're already seeing that the availability is down to, in those prime summer weeks, down to 30%. And we saw by the summer and during the summer, even with more properties coming on board, that number got down just on the to certainly below 10% by May or June on most weeks, and it got down to the single digits, under 5% in most cases for the last 2 years. So it's certainly, like you said, Joan, that if your home is priced appropriately and presented well, and if you were listed last year and had good results, there's no reason why you wouldn't have those same results this year. Every year is a little bit different in terms of some people book, like I've touted how people have done so well in the fall. Still, the vast majority of rentals and bookings occur from January through March early on, and then a lot will occur during the summer. But so it really is, each home is a little bit different. But I certainly think the demand is going to show that people presenting themselves well with a good price will, a competitive price will do well.
And even if the house isn't anywhere near the water, but is a good value, there are always people who realize they can't afford to be on the water and are just looking for that good value.
Carrie?
Okay, I think this is a question for Jim. Rita was asking, is it clear what the listing quality means to a vacationer who's searching for the property? So maybe can you just talk about what we tell the vacationer listing quality means?
I need to go back to double check exactly. We have somewhere on the site a description of it. It is becoming a little more standard in the industry to have something other than a price sort order. So whether it's called listing order or listing quality for us, other sites have used, just kind of some default language, but just, back when Homeowner was a prominent, Homeowner had a Homeowner sort, they called it. So I'll go double check where it is on the site that we presented, and if there is some confusion, maybe that we need a tooltip up on the
Yeah.
page
Can I
itself
add
for
something?
vacationers.
Jim, can I add something that?
Sure, Rita.
And so I was on my iPad and I logged on as a vacationer, and I didn't see anywhere where it said anything about listing quality. So what that means. So I first chose to sort by calendar. Who updated their calendar most recently? My property came up number 2 out of 40. And then I chose to sort it by listing quality, and I went down to number 14. I have no idea what that means as a vacationer. To me, it sounds like the quality of the house, the quality of the property. And I know, Joan, you're shaking your head, but I don't know that as a prospective renter. So that's, someone else wrote in the chat, that is the basis of my concern. It sounds like it's a statement of the listing quality of the property.
Sure. No, I hear your concern. We certainly don't want that to be the term. We tried to come up with an appropriate language for it, but no, we'll like I said, we'll go back to just make sure that there's a clarification on the search results page, because that's where a vacationer will be looking for. I mean, they're not going to go search on a help page to seek that out. They need to have that information for them. So we'll add some clarification there. So thank you for that feedback. We'll take a look and update the site.
Maybe if we explain it.
Sorry.
One of the issues with the quality that we've talked about over the years is, if you sometimes with the pricing on the calendar, it's like if you don't provide a price for a month, then you get a little ding in your audit or something like that. But then when I call in or write in, it says, oh, don't worry about that. But now it affects my listing quality. So that's this conundrum. What do we do? And you don't have to address it now. We can address this offline because it's almost 8 other people ask for questions. But so I think something else for y'all to think about.
Yeah. No, I do hear concern on part of some people, and I think that there might be some misunderstanding about this. As you said, Rita, it is the listing quality. It's not the quality of your home, and there are certain things that are more that weigh more heavily in the listing quality than others. And the first one is response rate and time to inquiries. we were finding, before we instituted this, we were finding that if we listed by price from high to low, in given searches, we'd have the same listings come up first in all the listings because they were the most expensive. So they were seen the most frequently by people. And some of them had terrible response rates. They might have had 40 email inquiries that they didn't reply to any of them. And it was giving vacationers, if they did inquire, a very poor impression of our listings, of our homeowners, and of our site. And we knew that we had to do something to change this. The other aspect, and everyone can control their response rate and time. If you respond to a given inquiry within 24 hours, you keep your excellent, under a day response time and your 100% response rate. The other thing that's very important is keeping your calendars up to date. There have been some people in the past who just don't update their calendars, and they keep them open even though they have a lot of booked weeks, and so that they get more inquiries, or they're busy and they just don't update their calendars. But we've got a lot of complaints from vacationers saying, I keep inquiring about various homes, and their calendars show availability, and then they get back to me and say, oh, sorry, it's booked, or it's been booked for a while.
And I think, Joan, I think we do get that, and we
Okay.
get the homeowners.
Okay,
should
well,
be-
I wasn't sure that everyone understood that.
And Jim did describe that in his talk. It's just, I think those of us who've commented on the chat, it's the terminology.
Mhm.
No, that's fair enough. We'll take a look at the both clarity of it for vacationers. I mean, that's the main thing that we want to make sure. And certainly if you have other questions, reach out to us on the list, your specifics within your audit. If anything's not clear, main goal of that audit is to provide feedback on things that you can control. There's shouldn't be anything in this audit that is kind of subjective to subjective that you have no control over. So these things, whether it's your calendar up to date, your responsiveness, these are things that you can control. The main intent. Carrie, is there?
Yeah, okay. So David asked a question about cable TV, just saying it's a major expense and wondering if people still offer cable TV or if people are moving to something else.
I think the answer to that would be, I think most people provide some form of entertainment. I think you would need to provide some sort of, either cable or a streaming service, and those are your options, is to provide cable or streaming. You're likely providing internet. I think almost everybody does. So if you want to cut the cord on cable, you can always provide a smart TV to have streaming services. And I think we have a whole post on kind of what those options are, but there's many different streaming services that you can either provide yourself. And even if you just provide a smart TV, many vacationers are going to come and they're going to log into their own accounts. But that being said, I think just hospitality wise, you're best off providing one or the other, cable or a streaming service of some sort.
Right. Well, you're going to provide internet, of course, obviously. It's just that the cable is on, you can turn it off. You can turn the TV down in the wintertime, but you're still charged for most of the year a very high fee.
I noticed in working with new listings, when the new listings were coming in, it seemed like more and more people were not offering cable, which implies to me that they were giving something, as Jim says. So I believe most people now are converting their old TVs to smart TVs, where either they provide the streaming service or their guests bring their own accounts. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Well, that's helpful. Yes, thank you.
Sure. Carrie?
Carrie?
Okay, Sheila asked a question about experience with renters and mini splits use. Sheila, are you still on the call? Do you want to clarify that question a little bit for us?
Yes, in the, we talk about going green, and that's one of the things that you have also said that, you can talk about that with your renters. But we're interested in putting heat pumps in splits because it's a better fuel efficiency and so on. So we're curious if anybody here has experience with renters and mini splits, because it's new, not everybody has it. So I was just curious if anyone had it, and advice they might give to their renters who might not be familiar with its use and so on. So I was just curious about that.
I'll chime in. I have a friend who's been renting for several years, and the brand of mini splits he has, he can control the temperature on his via Wi-Fi on his iPad. So he can see if in the summer, the renters have set air conditioning to 65 degrees, and then he'll go back and set it where it should be. And if the renters say anything, he'll say, well, it's on a timer. And so that, that's one option. We don't have that remote access and we haven't had any issues, but I think it's across the board, just like many renters are. Some take really good care, like it's their house, and some don't.
Mhm.
I love having them, and I think our renters love being able to adjust the temperature in each room themselves.
I'm sure.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Unmesh. I actually had a lot of people were asking for air conditioning system, and some people say that we won't be able to rent it unless we have, and it was a really hot season. So I did install mini split system, and many of those people came back actually, and no complaints. And I don't really control anything remotely. But I had no problems and people are happy with it.
Thank you.
They're really terrific. Carrie?
Well, I just had one little response to that. Rita, I would love to know what the mini split system is that can be controlled remotely, because we're,
LG.
what is it?
LG.
Oh, it was, okay. Because I thought that they couldn't be on a smart thermostat or controlled remotely, so that's good to know. Okay, next question. Chuck, I think, wanted help unmuting. Jim, I don't know if you can unmute him to ask a question.
I can do that.
Okay.
I think he has to, yep, there you go. You're unmuted, Chuck. But your audio might not be working.
Harry, let's take the next question and then maybe come back to Chuck if he can fix it.
So I think that's all I think I've gotten through most of the questions. I'm just kind of sorting through all the chat as well, but if anyone else has a question.
Sure. And Carrie, just to chime in, because I saw a thread going here, just another comment, just back on the listing quality. Pamela, you were chatting here, talking about how you've done well, which is congratulations on that. I see your properties by Mayflower. And the fact that your property, it doesn't have that green happy smiley face on it, and yet you're fully booked. Again, it's excellent. It's not going to prevent you from getting inquiries or being seen. It does provide a little bit of a sort. And if you're in a desirable place, again, you might get a little more visibility than others. Specifically on the listing quality, one of the things, and a couple of people are commenting on this, is that it is weighted as well. So yes, things like a video or green amenities, while they are factors, if you don't have them, it's not going to impact your listing, nor should it impact your listing as greatly as if you're not responding. So Pamela was commenting how she has 100% response rate. That's 100 times better than not having a video on your listing. And so that the listing quality is going to take that into consideration. And we have several people that have under 10% response rate. Those are the people that this is meant for, to really, first and foremost, is to really identify and make it fair to everybody aboard, to make sure that when visitors come to our site, guests come to our site, they have a good experience and they're not constantly sending inquiries to people that aren't responding or aren't updating their calendars.
Hey, guys. Can I?
Hey,
can I
Doug.
speak? Oh my
Hey,
God.
Doug.
I'm so happy we're doing this again. And I must say,
Good.
I've discovered that you have a new procedure where a lot of questions come in first, right? We go through all those questions, which is great. And I knew you did that, so I would shut up. I
I didn't even know you were coming. Doug.
Okay, but I do have a question for everybody, especially you guys. We're completely booked for July and August. We have 2 weeks booked from the end of May into the 1st of June, and 1 week booked from the last of June into July, but nothing after September. We're looking, what kind of, we've been out there in June. My wife and I always go end August and September. It's gorgeous. Anybody have any ideas on how to present an encouragement to the guests to take a look at June? June's gorgeous, and so September. So any ideas?
First of all, I just want to comment people always say how gorgeous it is in September. The fact is, schools are open in September, and all the public schools are open in June too. So until pretty deep in June. So that's your biggest stumbling block.
Very smart, very smart, very smart. Thank you.
But if you price it appropriately and you provide any other incentives, June could be pretty chilly.
Sometimes, yeah.
And Doug, do you ever reduce below 7 days, below a weekly rental?
No, I haven't, but only because especially since COVID, the cleaning bills are monstrous. They've gone up so much because of COVID. And once something goes up, even though it's not necessary anymore, it doesn't come down. So just, if somebody stays for 3 or 4 days, the price I have to charge them relative to the cleaning is a lot.
Some people we've noticed they include cleaning during the summer, but then charge per stay in the off season. So you can kind of get, what do you call that? Creative. And, if some people don't mind, as long as they only can rent for those few days, they don't mind paying that cleaning fee.
So Elizabeth, why are you so smart? That was a great answer. I love
Because
it.
I work with smart people.
Great. Great. Very, very, very observant. Yeah. Really.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
I just wanted
To
to
that
say,
point there, just so you know, we have more bookings in the pre-season than we do the postseason. What we've seen in the postseason in the fall is double-digit growth rates for the last 10 years. So it's catching up to the pre-season, but we get as many rentals from Memorial Day to the beginning to the end of June, more, almost half again as much as we do in the fall. So don't despair on the spring rentals. They're hopping. It's been hopping for years.
Yeah.
I just want to
Thank you.
say, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I just want to say, we were very reluctant to raise our prices this year. I did have Becky come out from We Need a Vacation, and she was very, very helpful, because we were very, it was just not, we weren't able to look at it objectively, I guess, and she came, was extremely helpful. So if anybody's having problems with the pricing, I really suggest having her come out. And she was right on, because after I listed it, we had a few weeks booked quickly. So I was really happy about that.
I'm glad you said something. She is amazing. And what you're describing is what we call an on-site consultation. Joan also does non-on-site. She'll do remote that are not as expensive, but she's not going and meeting with you personally. but Joan also provides that professional pricing analysis if you guys need help. How are you doing on those, Joan?
And
You
while you
swamped,
have
or
Becky come out to consult with you on your pricing, have her take some pictures too. She's a great photographer.
Yeah, I'm gonna have her do that in the spring.
Mhm.
Did she take yours, Doug?
She sure did. We're so happy. We need to do it again. You know what? That's another thing. How many people are using the oh God, what are they called? The I'm gonna call them flying objects. The
Drone?
drones, thank you.
Okay, awesome.
A lot of people are using drones. Are they been effective as far as you can tell?
They certainly are. I mean, the video that a drone, the perspective that they provide, you can have a standalone drone shot, or you can add a drone shot to an overall video of your homes. And I think those are very effective devices for marketing purposes. So we'll be providing a drone service again, starting say around Memorial Day. We'll have a drone service available
I
if
didn't
anyone
know
is
that.
interested.
That's great. I wondered if we were going to do that again this year. That's terrific.
I want to just try. I've unmuted Chuck.
Oh, Chuck.
Good, Chuck.
Yeah, no, sorry, Chuck. He's trying to chat with me.
Oh,
He's trying to do it from a phone. So yeah, sorry, Chuck. Well, you do follow up with us afterwards. We'll try to address your question. Hopefully it wasn't a question for everybody.
You guys been terrific. Just a great engaged audience tonight.
Carrie, any others that we should?
Well, there was a question about someone who is new to renting, any advice for them, but that might just be too broad of a topic. We could follow up with them after, but
We have lots of advice for
Call
them.
them directly.
Yeah.
We'll call you directly.
We're thinking we might have a session just for newbies, for people who, would like to, who are new on the scene of vacation rentals and would like to, chat with us and ask us lots of questions. Many of the people on this Zoom session are veterans, and they've been around the block a few times, and some have been on our site for years and years. So I'm surprised you don't know everything already. You could probably answer most of these questions yourself. But for new people, sometimes you're working in a vacuum. You might not live on the Cape Islands and know anyone else who's renting. So that's why this communication and just keeping in touch with one another is just so important. So you can see what other people are doing and see the concerns and hear from them.
We're always welcoming, people reaching out for questions by email or phone, but you can also, if you haven't gone to our blog, the homeowner blog, it answers just about anything. There's a magnifying glass, so you can search, put in keywords and search by topic, and it's a tremendous wealth of information. Joan also mentioned that Facebook community page. If you want to join that, if you want a quick question, and it, not necessarily from us, but just from your colleagues or competitors, feel free to join there as well. We just have so many resources for you. So reach out, and we're happy to help.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to mention about the house phones. And I want to give a quick story about that. Keep your house phones. Because my experience was back at 9/11, when the towers came down. I was in Jersey. I was a contractor in Manhattan, but I never made it in because I was late getting material. My wife called me, said, stay home. They're closing the city down. So I went back home. And of course, I was using my cell phone all the time. But my wife was in a hotel as a concierge in Manhattan. And the only way I could communicate with her or any of my friends anywhere was the landline, because the cell phones were completely jammed up. So keep your landline.
God willing, we're not going to have another 9/11.
No, I don't think so. Could be anything, but keep the landline.
Yep.
All right, Joan, anything else?
No, I see we're past our time, but as always, if you have a question, please don't hesitate to email us or call us. We're always available to respond to your concerns and questions.
Otherwise, we'll see you in a few weeks. We'll let you know as soon as the green team is ready for their, that sounds really, I can't remember her name. What's her name?
Maggie Downs.
Maggie Downs. That should be fascinating. I want to find out how I can save money.
All right, thank you everyone for joining and staying a few minutes extra. We'll do it again soon. And best of luck, everyone.